And we're live on Facebook on Augusta Free Press. Chris Graham, Scott German. So, Scott, your call before we left our halftime show was Virginia will get it closer and then run out of steam. They did get it closer. I'm not sure they ran out of steam. I think I'm going to use a term that I've become familiar with of late. I think Coach Bennett kind of took the piss out of it himself. We went to the bench when it got down to 7 and then down to 8. Tony tried to steal a couple of minutes. He did this both halves. He tried to steal a couple of minutes, 9.5-minute mark to the 8-minute mark, trying to get to the TV timeout. Give at that point, I think he was giving Hauser and Huff a break. Florida State actually went on a quick 8-0 run, and he called timeout. You might remember. And then in this situation, it was a 6-0 run, trying to get Kihei and Jay Huff a break. And so, I mean, the final score is a 21-point margin, but 14 points quick for Florida State in those two situations. Sometimes you know, the substitution patterns can kind of like in a NASCAR race. If you go to the pits too soon, you know, you can lose track position. We lost track position on both of those situations, and Florida State, credit to them, they took advantage.
Yeah, I kind of question that too. And it's almost blasphemy to say you disagree with something that Coach Bennett did, but I didn't get that either, because you give yourself a 20-point hole and then you pull back to within 6 or 7 points. I'm sorry. I just think you got to leave what's working out there.
It's kind of like, I'll use a NASCAR analogy now. I'll use a horse race analogy. If you had to use the whip on the horse to get through the turn and you're a couple strides behind, you don't lay off the whip down the stretch. You got to keep hitting that horse until you get across the finish line. And if you lose, you lose. But no,
yeah, if the guys run out of gas and you lose by 20, so what? We lost by 21 anyway.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not black. That's part of our job. Part of our job is to point out some stuff. So that's I think we got to do that. No, from a stat standpoint, I mean, this one is interesting. I'm going to have some time breaking this one down. Florida State 13 of 24 from 3. We talked about this earlier. They're third in the ACC coming in from 3. They shot above their station tonight. Virginia shot right at their number. I mean, you don't think of 9 of 23, 39.1. Virginia is 39.9 on the season, so just a tick under. But that's right what you want to shoot. A little bit under on the overall from the field, but offensively, I mean, 60 points is not, you don't write home about that one, but 60 points in 61 possessions. Yeah, it's a little under, but not terribly. It's Florida State making shots. I said this at halftime. I'll say it again. They were 13 of 24 from 3. Let me look at their numbers from the rim. They were 8 of 17 at the rim. That's not jumping out of the gym kind of numbers. So they were, let's see, that's quick. I'm doing the quick math here. That's 21 of 41. That means they were 8 of 17 on jumpers, 2-point jumpers. So when you're 8 of 17 on 2-point jumpers, 13 of 24 on 3-point jumpers, if you're making your jumpers, ain't nobody gonna beat you. This is just one of those nights. They were making jumpers, and Scott, I don't have the mental Rolodex of every single jumper they made. They made 21 by my count jumpers. To say that Virginia did not miss an assignment on any of those 21, but it felt like to me, most part there were hands and faces. That one from Koprivica, that was just guy had not even shot a 3 in his college career, and he stood there and made a 3 over Jay Huff's hand. If I'm gonna be rude here, if that shit's going in, that's not your night.
Yeah, that's the way it was. I mean, they made some shots that just went in. You play them tomorrow night, and they probably more than likely won't make them.
Jay Bill is anointing that guy. Oh yeah, he's going to be a stretch 5. Jay, he's made 1 3 in his career. Don't give this kid an NBA contract. I mean, Jay Huff made 1 as a redshirt freshman in his first game. He made 3 or 4. I think he was 5 or 6 in that game in his first game. Let's see the kid make a second one before we give him an NBA contract. That was not good from Jay. I like Jay Billis. That was not a good look from Jay Billis.
Chris, I'm looking at the stats. Florida State's physical team. They played a physical game. Another comment I made, Nostradamus comment I made in the first half was
Yeah.
Before this game is over, the fouls are going to just about even out. It's not how many it's called, it's when they're called. Well, the total fouls were even now. It's 15-12. But
they shot 13 free throws for the game, and we shot 12 for the game. So it conveniently
right.
evened out. Yeah.
But it's not how many they called. It's the style of play. They let it go a lot, and early on, they let it go a whole lot, and we just weren't up. We just weren't up. We played what is Tony's word?
Finesse.
Finesse. Well, we were finesse tonight.
Well,
I got another word that ends in a Y that better describes some of
I'm going to disagree with you on the second word you're alluding to, because if the game is being called the way it was being called, especially in the first half, and if you're allowed to grab and clutch, and guys can't run off screens, and guys can't break away, if you're a defender on the perimeter and the guy's dribbling the ball and you're able to get a hand on him, you're not supposed to be able to do that. If the refs are allowing that and you can't fight back, that's not being finesse, and that's not being the other word you're talking about. That's just being, hey, we're playing a different game than we normally play. I'd use the analogy at halftime. If you're a defensive back and the first time you hold a receiver, they don't call it, and the second time you hold a receiver, they don't call it, you're going to keep holding the receiver until they call it. And if they don't call it the whole game, then guess what? You ain't giving up a catch to that guy you're covering. If Florida State, and credit to Florida, Florida State played within the rules. The way the game was called tonight, they played. And so if you're able to get away with it, get away with it. And we don't play defense that way. I'm not saying that we're high and noble. The Virginia team is high and noble. It's just the way Virginia plays defense is more position based. It's more help based and everything else. They're not a team that uses this isn't the Jeff Jones UVA. This isn't the beat the other team up UVA defense. This is a position defense. And so, no, I'll disagree with you there. I mean, I don't know that we were too finessey. We just, this is a reality. If we run into a set of officials in the NCAA tournament that calls a game this way, we're not going to win. Not a lot of teams are going to beat Florida State if they're able to play defense the way they play defense tonight, because they are very physical. They're a very athletic team. They have waves of players. If they get 6 sets of refs like they had tonight, Florida State's national champions.
So do you think moving forward, that might be opponent's game plan? Just get physical with Virginia and hope the officials let it go.
Well, but you'll know early if they will let it go or not. I mean, you of course you want to be physical with Virginia because Tony said we're finesse. And honestly, it's not just because Tony said we're finesse. Virginia is, an outside-in team. Virginia is a team that the 3, 4, and 5, the 6'8", 6'9", and 7'1" guys are they spread the floor with threes. And your 5'9" guy is the one who attacks the rim. We saw that with Kihei in the second half. Credit to Kihei. He got the team back in the game. Had nothing at halftime and had a great second half. But that's the way Virginia plays. They play backwards from the way most teams play. So yeah, you're going to try to be physical with Virginia. If in the first 2 or 3 minutes the officials don't allow you to do that, then you'll know pretty quickly. And if that's your whole game plan, then your game plan's blown early. But no, you play Virginia tough, and then you hope you get the calls, and if you don't, then it's going to be a long night for you. That's the frustrating thing for me, though, when you hear about points of emphasis and that kind of thing. I mentioned this in the halftime talk. There was a Florida State shooter who there was a foul called on a Virginia defender. There was no contact, and the only contact that could have been, even on the replay, the Florida State kid stuck his leg out, and that's supposed to be an offensive foul. In fact, we saw that called in a Virginia game earlier this year on a Pitt guy, I think it was. Call it the same way. These games are played. I mean, it's not like this was a different game than was played Saturday. Florida State played Wake, we played Carolina, and this game felt like it was a different sport than the games we saw those two teams play on Saturday. That's very frustrating from a fan standpoint, an analyst standpoint. You just want to see more consistency, and tonight we didn't see that.
No, and let's, we have to be objective. Florida State's a very good basketball team.
Oh yeah, they are, and
we didn't lose to Wake Forest or Boston. Florida State, especially if the officials are going to let them play like they did tonight, they're going to be a tough out for anyone.
They've got guys. MJ Walker had a game. He was 5 of 6 from three. He is a good 3-point shooter. He's not that good on the season. Well, nobody's 5 of 6 on the season, obviously. But Walker is a guy at 6'5". He's a 44% 3-point shooter. So he's a guy that you got to watch. But looking at, he had 6 assists tonight too. He's usually a guy that's prone to turnovers. He'd averaged right around 3 turnovers a game coming in. 6 assists and I'm sorry, he had 6 rebounds, not 6 assists. No assists, but no turnovers. And Scotty Barnes, he's the one who had 6 assists. He's the 6'9" guy that they said played power forward in high school, and they think his future in the NBA is as a 6'9" point guard. He had 6 assists and no turnovers. Florida State only had 5 turnovers in this game. That's key. Virginia's not a team that forces a lot of turnovers generally, but Barnes only had 7 points, but he really set the tone with his ability to create. Florida State had 17 assists. Virginia had 14 assists, but 13 turnovers. And so, no, they've got guys, man. And that Koprivica, 7'1" guy who may eventually be a stretch 5, but he's a guy that can shoot from outside. I had tonight for the first time we saw range outside of 15 feet. But no, they got guys, they got dudes, and they got lots of them. They're going to be a tough out when you get to March. And this win tonight and the ferocity of this win tonight. A 21-point win. When you look at this Florida State team's resume coming into this one, I'm going to quickly pull their. They had not had an impressive win yet. I'm going to say it that way. They beat Indiana early. They beat Florida early. But since then, they lost to Clemson on the road. They lost to Georgia Tech on the road. Kind of like Virginia's resume. They had wins over, NC State, Carolina. They beat Louisville. They beat Clemson, Miami, Wake Forest. But, the ACC so down this year that it had been since the second game of the season that they played that they had an impressive win. And so for that team, this is a huge win and will be a sort of a signal to the country that you better take Florida State seriously.
Yeah, they're a good team. And as I said, if the officials are going to, let them play, the old saying, let them play, then they're better than a good team. They're a great team.
And if they're going to make everything they throw at the rim from 3-point range, which is kind of what it felt like, I know they did, and they were only 13 of 24. But if they're going to go 13 of 24 and be able to play the defense they play tonight, man, yeah, this Leonard Hamilton is well poised for March.
So when we talk back and forth, you've always said this year, just get to March. So I think really this game is classic. That's a classic way to look at it. Just get to March, get that double bye in the ACC. So get those first couple of nights off. We were in the Charlotte Coliseum, Spectrum Center, whatever it is, when they beat us handily in the ACC tournament. We went on to win a national championship. Remember in 2019, we just waxed them in JPJ.
Yeah.
It was like a 30-point game that they closed on a 15-0 run against some of our Hall of Fame players like Kersey and Castro. They had their starters in. They
full court press with their starters against our walk-ons. Yeah.
Yeah, and it made it a little more respectable. And then that 2019, team went on. We lost to them in the tournament, right? That was the game I just told you.
We beat the heck out of them in like early January.
Yeah.
First game or two of the ACC season. Lost to them in March. So it just shows that to me the point is, and I don't even care. Honestly, Scott, I love the ACC tournament as a spectacle. I don't even care about double buys and whatever you do there. I don't care. As we've seen, Virginia's won 2 ACC tournaments in the last 7 years. They won in 2014, 2018. Neither of those teams, played even in a Final Four. The team that lost in the semifinals goes to the national championship. I don't care if they lose the first game in Greensboro this year, and it's weird to say that. I'm sure they want to win, they want to play hard, everything else. But when I say get to March, I mean get to the NCAA tournament, get to Indianapolis, because that's where the Indianapolis is where the whole tournament's being played this year. So to get to Indy, and then win one game at a time. That's the season to me. Because if you ask me, Scott, I mean, I know I think you might think differently. I think this team's ceiling. I think this team is a team that can beat anybody in the country, including Gonzaga. I know they beat us December 26th pretty handily. That was a different Virginia team.
And that was the last game against that Gonzaga's probably played against a quality opponent.
Well, and if they play us again, if they play us again, it'll be late in March or maybe even in April, because both will be so highly seeded. So by that point, they will have played some good opponents. But my point there is, I think that this Virginia team is one of the teams that can win 6 games in March and into April. I think Florida State's one of those teams. We're both NBA fans. We both have league pass. I'm sure we'll be turning it on after we get done with this and get done with some writing. NBA teams don't fret over losing a game by 20 points in a regular season. NBA teams get on the plane and get ready to play the next one. I think when you've won a championship, and there are players on this team who were on the floor in Minneapolis, certainly the coaches are there. You don't want to lose a game this way, but it's not the end of the season. Fans, of course, jump up and down, and they're going to be all jumping off the ship tonight and everything else. But NBA teams don't fret over it. It's just a game. You lost, learn from it. Don't let it happen. Don't let it happen again. Don't let it happen in March. So tonight, the lesson, I think the lesson, Scott, should be the lesson you said: play tougher. If the refs are calling it differently, then you gotta adjust too. Virginia never adjusted to right. At least except for that one stretch in this early second half, they didn't adjust. So no, I think that you take what you can and you come back home and get ready for Saturday.
Yeah, the ACC tournament is for most of it's a spectacle. It's a social event. You almost for teams that enter the ACC tournament. What do you think about this premise? Is that if you've already punched your ticket to the NCAA tournament, it's almost like the ACC baseball tournament for teams that have already punched their ticket to the NCAA baseball tournament. You lose early on, then you don't wear out your pitching staff. You lose early on in the ACC tournament, like we do. We lost in the second, semifinals against Florida State, but it was our second game.
Yeah.
You go back home a couple of days early. You rest up. This year might even be more important, because I was thinking about this. What happens to a team that, say, during their conference tournament, has a positive COVID test? Are they done?
I'm not even sure that's worth. I mean, I understand what your point is there.
I mean, I'm just thinking, is that even more of a reason to not play a tournament?
Oh, no, it's not. I mean, because you keep forgetting, and I'm sure a lot of fans.
It's a business, and
it's a business.
It's inventory,
and it's inventory. They have ads that they want to run, and that's how they make money. And so, no, they play the tournament. You go and play the tournament. Hopefully you play it. I mean, because do you guarantee that you don't get COVID by not going to Greensboro and staying in Charlottesville? No,
you can get it because it's not just get it. It's contact tracing and everything.
The whole menagerie of ridiculousness we've been living in for the last almost year now. So that doesn't guarantee anything. To your point though about the tournament, there have been 3 ACC teams in the last 6 years that have won NCAA tournament championships: the Virginia team in 2019. The Carolina team in 2017, the Duke team in 2015. What's a commonality to those 3 teams? They each played 2 games in ACC tournaments, lost in the semifinals, and then went and won 6 straight games.
Right.
That's the bigger point. I think, Scott, to your analogy about pitching staff, there's something about they're so different in conference tournaments than the way you play the NCAA tournament. You play 3 straight nights if you're one of the double buys and you go all the way to the final and win the championship. You play 3 straight nights. You don't play 3 straight nights in the NCAA tournament. You play one night, you have a day off, you play another night. Then you have a couple of days, 3 or 4 days off, whatever. And so, yeah, I think there's something to that, the less wear and tear you put on your kids' legs, the coaches I don't know, they want to win the games, but they don't mind when they lose. But they get to go home a night early. We were thinking about that when we were there in 2019, Scott, in Charlotte. I remember we talked about that when we left the arena that night. By the time we were walking out of the arena, they were already on the plane flying back to Charlottesville. Sleeping in their own beds an extra night can't hurt you at that time of year. The number of games you play, the intensity, everything else. So no, I mean, you want to win the games, but no, the games that are important are the ones that start that next week, and you got to win those one at a time, as we know. So this is the tough one. I mean, we wanted to play better. If you lose the game, you wanted to at least lose more respectably. At least, Scott, as to your point at halftime, they did make a run. Unfortunately, the run got stopped, and credit to Florida State for doing that. But this was not a good night for Virginia.
I mean, no, it's you lose, but we did show some character. Came back, closed it within 7. And I think, call it run out of gas, call it Tony maybe not making the best decision and subbing,
or he made what he thought was a good decision. It just didn't work out.
It's only a bad decision if it doesn't work out. Right?
It's just like there's never. I'm going to use another baseball analogy. There's no inherently good pitch or bad pitch. You can hit. I think the pitch that Howie Kendrick hit for the 2-run homer in Game 7 of the World Series a couple years ago. It was a change up off the outside part of the plate. That's a good pitch. He had a home run off of it. So there's no inherently good or bad pitch. There's no inherently good or bad decision.
And Tony made that call.
Yeah, he made it.
And that's Tony's the coach, and Tony's around the team. So, he knows his personnel better than we do.
It is my imperative, though, to have to point out that Florida State took advantage of that twice in this game.
They did. They took advantage. You're right. They took advantage at the end of the half, and then at the end of towards the end of the game. Well, not the end of the game, middle of the game.
It took the piss out of our run, is what it did, and that's it happens. And what you don't want to happen. I've had a little bit of a cold the last few days. What you don't want to happen is that happens in March when there's no tomorrow. And so lessons learned by coaches too. Maybe Tony learns tonight, hey, I'm gonna go back and look at this. I got 5 days to look at it. Guess what I won't do next time? I'm not gonna take those guys out and try to steal minutes, because we're wrapping up our show here. But that lineup on the floor a couple of times, man, when you got Casey, when we didn't have Kihei, so when we took Kihei and Huff out, you had Reese Beekman playing point, and then you had Casey, you had Walter Tensai, Murphy. Oh my God! Like where and Shedrick? Where's the ball going? Who's going to score here? And Shedrick is, God love the kid. He's got such energy, but since he's come back, he looks so lost. More so since he's come back from his COVID pause, looks so lost. Those kids look like in mid-January, like they were ready to blossom, and they've not come back.
Yeah, it's been it's been a weird season. So we're heading down the stretch. So get to the tournament, get to the postseason. And when I say tournament, I'm not even referring to the ACC tournament. I'm referring to the NCAA tournament. Get to that, and let's see what happens then. So we got a few weeks to lick our wounds. Tony, we'll come back out. At least we got a pretty easy game Saturday. At least we get a cupcake game on Saturday at Cameron Indoor Stadium against
Cupcake at Cameron. Yeah, Jalen Johnson. Yeah. And those who were watching the game, you heard the news a few times because ESPN was trying to keep your attention. Jalen Johnson is opting out of the season. What in the heck is that?
That is one of the words I would use for that ended in a Y. I mean, that's terrible.
Yeah, that's I agree with Billis's assessment here. He thinks he's going to be a one and done player. He's going to submit for the draft as soon as he can. NBA teams have to look at that though and say, you quit on your team. I mean, what happens if he's going to be a high draft pick? He's going to be a high draft pick by a team that has a high draft pick because they stink. Are you going to get to March next year with your NBA rookie season and say, this season isn't going so well, I'm quitting. I'm going to set the rest of the season. I'm opting out. I think that puts question on that kid. I mean, yeah. he seems like he's got a lot of talent, but you cannot quit on your guys.
And if Coach Krzyzewski wanted to, those scouts are going to be asking those kind of questions, especially they're going to be asking them of somebody is thought of as highly as Krzyzewski. He could really do some damage if he wanted to. Like, well, I never really thought he was all that great of a team player. He, blah, blah, blah. Anything to kind of dim his draft picks, but his draft status. But yeah, it's not a good look.
Well,
Certainly.
look at he played 8 minutes on Saturday in their big win. They won. They had a 20-point lead in the first half at NC State and won pretty handily. He played 8 minutes in that game, and they won pretty handily at NC State. That was Coach K, I think, sending a message to the young man. I mean, without following Duke closely, it just seems to me I'm sending a message. I'm going to play some guys, and we're going to show we can win without you. And instead of stepping up to the challenge, the young man says, "I'm taking my ball and I'm going home." So there you go. Step up to the challenge, young fella. Congratulations. To whatever NBA team is dumb enough to waste a lottery pick on him. Good luck.
Yeah. So I was just doing some calculating, and so based on the number of games Duke has played and the number of games that they likely could play. So Duke's not going to be, maybe they're not going to be called a one and done anymore. Maybe they're going to be called a 0.75 and done or a 0.80.
Yeah, I was telling Crystal, my wife Crystal.
This drags that figure down a little bit. I mean, you look at Zion Williamson. He had a legitimate injury. Mm-hmm. No one would have blamed him.
Right.
Had he said, "Look, I can't. My ankle's not good. My knee's still weak. I'm not playing." It would have been totally acceptable. But he didn't take that attitude.
I remember we did a story late in his one season at Duke, and I was putting the number on the value of Zion Williamson as the number one pick with all the ballyhoo he came out with. That he could be, if he lived up to his potential, he could be $1 billion guy.
Right.
He was $1 billion guy who blew his ankle. It was his knee. He blew the shoe out, hurt his knee in that Carolina game, 50 seconds into that game. And yeah, had to miss a couple of weeks. $1 billion guy said, "You know what? No, I'm coming back and playing. We're going to try to win a championship."
Right.
He wasn't the same either. I mean, down the stretch, he wasn't the same, but $1 billion guy came back, and this chucker doesn't come back. Yeah, I think that says a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and that might be why more coaches might be going away from that mentality of recruiting those kids. I don't know, maybe not.
We haven't done our pregame, and obviously because we're still wrapping up the Florida State game, and that game is not until Saturday. But God, maybe Coach K was not just sending a message to Jalen Johnson; he was probably sending a message to his team. We're better without this guy. And for one game, they were better without the guy. So we'll have to take that into account as we get ready to break down the UVA Duke game coming up on Saturday. But we have a lot of time between now and then, a little bit of chance to catch our breath. I hate these Saturday Mondays because you barely get done with the one game. You got to preview the next one. You got to cover the next one. It's exhausting. I mean, we still got to do our work now. So
well, we know if you don't think we're going to get Duke's best shot, I would be shocked if we didn't. I mean, I'm not saying that I think we should win. We probably will win, but I don't look for this to be some blowout. I think Duke's going to give us their best shot, no doubt.
I've been saying this for a couple of weeks. Georgia Tech last week, Carolina last week, Florida State tonight. When you're Virginia and you're still the guys with the flag that's the most recent flag banner, you're going to get the best shot. And Florida State didn't need a win for tournament status; they needed it for seeding. Georgia Tech and Carolina needed it for status. Duke certainly needs it for status. So you're going to get their best shot because that might be their last chance to play their way in without having to win the ACC tournament. And so, no, you're going to get and plus, again, the one game they've played, the sample size being very small, the one game they played without their star guy, they played pretty well. So we have a lot of time to figure that one out, though.
So here's a something for us to do real quick before anyone that has a league ticket. Malcolm is Indiana, Chicago in overtime, 99. I believe it just went to overtime. Malcolm is a couple assists away from a triple-double.
Something to watch there. That'll be maybe a way to cap our night off in a positive way. Yeah.
As of right now, he has 23 points, 13 rebounds.
With us having already played on Monday night, there'll be a lot of league pass between now and Saturday, as far as that goes for Scott German and I, and probably for a lot of you folks as well. So let's wrap up. This is we of course from Augusta Free Press standpoint, this wraps up our podcast and our Facebook Live, but we got plenty to still come on the website in terms of coverage. Also look to our sister site, JerryRatcliffe.com. Jerry's working feverishly on a story himself. We'll have his story on his site tonight. Scott and I will be covering the game post game here. At least in my case, I'll be hitting the bottle too, because I gotta have something to keep me occupied here through this. I got to get a couple ciders in me to loosen up a little bit, but no, it'll be a fun night. So that league pass, all the coverage.
Hey, can we at least do just a little teaser on JerryRatcliffe.com and Augusta Free Press and Chris Graham, and that some big news is coming down the pike?
Let's just say that there's big news coming down the pipe, and it's really big news.
Really big news.
And it's 7'4" level big news.
It's not a tall tale either. It's just a tall tale.
It's a very tall tale. It involves a partnership that's in the works between JerryRatcliffe.com, AugustaFreePress.com. A really big guy who you might know from UVA's Mount Rushmore, and we'll just kind of leave it at that.
Yeah, that's if anyone is still out in the dark on that, then they should not be allowed to walk the streets.
I think his broadcast partner calls him Stick, if that helps at all.
Yeah.
And if you need any more help, yeah, you're right, Scott. You don't even it doesn't even apply to you.
Big news.
Big news coming in the next few weeks. And we're working on the details now. So exciting stuff coming up from Augusta Free Press, JerryRatcliffe.com, and our big partner in the works. So looking forward to being able to roll that out. But no, that's coming. And that's the good news of the night. So
we can
wrap
go
up.
to bed happy tonight.
Well, it leaves us happy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So,
and that's, after all, that is all it's about.
I'll tell you, that hour of my day spent today in a Zoom meeting with that group makes these 2 hours not even a blip. So that's okay. And we can't wait to be able to be more vocal than we are, even though we've pretty much already told the story, but
we didn't tell it. So
we just didn't use a name, but anyway, it's coming. So Scott, thank you for your time. For all of our viewers and listeners, thank you for your time. More coverage on AFP tonight, and we will talk to you again soon.